in 1906, and he was a tireless advocate for workers. If you know anything about the history of the early part of this century, Jim Green, if you don't, Jim Green will make sure you do. There are a lot of issues around child labor laws, and kids as young as age 7 and 8 and 9 worked in textile manufacturing plants. He was, as a parent of 8, was obviously opposed to having children working in manufacturing facilities. And he fought for the quality of life for working people in this Commonwealth. He fought for kids. He passed legislation that actually changed child labor laws here in this Commonwealth. He made sure that kids under the age of 16 could not go to work. Under 16 could not go to work, Richard, unless they could read and write. You had to have some level of education before you were allowed to go and work in these facilities, manufacturing facilities. He also passed a bill that prevented children under the age of 14 from working during school hours. So even if you could read and write and you were under 14 years old, think about this for a second. Imagine our kids trumping off to work at 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I mean, it's just inconceivable to us in this day and age. He was also a huge advocate of worker safety. And workers' compensation was a big deal around the turn of the century and the first couple of decades of the 20th century. And he played a great role in advancing that piece. So we got a plaque. So we find out about this wonderful story about this man that gave his life for all that we hold dear and all that we take for granted now about our kids and about workplace safety and about a whole host of other labor issues that we hold near and dear. Well, it was this guy that moved the ball down the field. And so just upstairs, we're gonna commemorate this plaque. And as we went through the process with our friends, the curators and labor historians and wonderful artists, we thought more about this man's life and about where we ought to go with this and about what are we really trying to say. Is his assassination the central point of this artwork? Can it be more of a living document, a living testament to all the wonderful things that have happened over these past 100 years? And if you think about the miracle of Massachusetts, it's about the fact that we were in the forefront of every piece of progressive legislation that has transpired pretty much in this country over the last 100 years. When they talk about health care and workers' compensation, child labor laws and education laws, you talk about worker safety, you talk about prevailing wages and minimum wages. Most of it, lots of it, had its beginnings right here in this legislature, in this building, at the hands of many of our predecessors. Many of the labor leaders that came before us were the people that made that happen. So when you look at this plaque, Meredith Bergman has done such a wonderful job capturing this history about the notion that we are a nation of immigrants and about people came here and they were welcomed here and they worked hard and they advanced their social and economic status. And this wonderful helix that comes through 100 years of labor strife and struggle, because I guess that is really what our lives are all about. You don't get anything for nothing. You have to fight for it. You have to have the will to stand up and insist that justice must prevail. And when you go look at this plaque, you'll read it. You'll see it depicted so wonderfully by Meredith. And so I am just so thrilled for this labor movement, for our predecessors who worked so hard to secure the kinds of social and economic benefits that we all take for granted. And I don't know how many times I've been in this building, but I know it numbers in the thousands. I know that numbers in the thousands, and I look on these walls and I read these plaques and the rich military history of this country and of this state. And Nurses Hall here, and you think of the women that have made a great contribution that are depicted in this building, and you think about all the great politicians that advanced the democratic argument in this Commonwealth. And then you think to yourself, boy, here we are, a nation of workers, and there are so many people who came before us and did so many courageous things, and finally, after all these years, in such a prominent location between the governor's office and the speaker's office, there's going to be a 3-foot by 5-foot plaque, bronze plaque depicting the history of labor, a living document, a people's plaque, a worker's plaque. So then when my friends in the state senate and the state house, and when the governor takes a walk over to go see the speaker, and the speaker comes out to take a walk over to go see the Senate president, they're going to be staring in their face the history of all the wonderful things that have been contributed by working people in the state. I can't tell you how happy I am that we all together, the legislature and the community and the labor movement in this Commonwealth, have finally, after all these years, had an opportunity to express ourselves in perpetuity. So thank you for all of you that played a role in that great effort. My role now is to recognize a whole host of folks that made this possible. And first off, Representative Steve Walsh, who actually submitted the bill that commissioned all this work. Is Steve here somewhere? Representative Walsh? I guess not, but at any rate, Steve gets great recognition for his good work. Obviously, the legislature. Nothing happens in this world without the legislature. It's wonderful, and I'm so thrilled by the fact that you made this happen. I also want to thank, we have not often been appreciative of the work of lineup of Republican governors over certain period of history here in Massachusetts. I've had a great many struggles, if you will, but it was Republican Governor Jane Swift that actually signed the legislation into law that allowed us to proceed with this. So I thank Governor Swift for her great work as well. Also need to thank Secretary Bump and George Noel, Director of Labor George Noel, for all their great work and all the help that they have given to us. I have to thank Paula Morse, the chairman of the Matt's Arts Commission, and Susan Greendyke from the Center curator of the State House. It was such a pleasure working with you both. But above all, I have to thank my great friend, the Secretary of State here in Massachusetts, for always being there and always helping us and always advocating for us with the folks in the building and the legislature, and actually playing a role with helping to fund certain aspects of this through preservation funds and other funds. Just a wonderful ally of working families here in the Commonwealth. Mr. Secretary, thank you very much for your work. I also want to thank family friend Dick Rutherfield that's here today. I'm sorry a number of the family members couldn't be here, but they're scattered all over the country, and they were here for our wonderful dedication when we did the first work and got the process going. So also want to recognize Senator Ken Donnelly, one of our great senators here. I think maybe Kenny had it. There he is, my friend, Kenny Donnelly. Thank you, Kenny. Senator Anthony Galluccio, another great friend. Representative Ann Margaret Ferranti, who was also a great friend of Labor. Representative Marty Walsh, who was here. I also saw Representative Catherine Clark, who was in the back. Thank you, Catherine, for being here. All good friends of this labor movement. And if I forgot anybody, I'm sure Timmy will remind me, and we'll catch up to that a little bit later.